Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design, and today I'm out in the factory, and I'm going to build beer can rings today out of this chunk of aluminum, which used to be 6 feet long, but now it's only 3 feet long. Now, I'm going to take a chunk of this over in the bandsaw and cut it off and throw it in the lathe. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about the ins and outs, the problems, the challenges of building beer can rings. So, let's get started. Okay, I've got this in the lathe, and I'm going to flip the camera around and show you that the first thing you'll notice is this stalk isn't round, not even close. It's just not round. Okay, because it's not round, you have to buy it oversized so that you can turn it until it is round. So that presents somewhat of a problem. Second problem is this is 6061 T6, which is one of my less favorite aluminums to work with. The surface finish is harder to get. It just doesn't turn as well for me as the more expensive aluminums. I would prefer this was made out of 2011 T3. Unfortunately, as near as I can tell, nobody sells an extruded tube in 2011 T3, and if they did, it would be uber expensive. So I'm working with a material I'm not real crazy about working with that's out of round, and that's just the beginning of it. Now, when I very first invented the beer can ring and started making it, believe it or not, the first few I made on a little 7 by 10, I think, the little red ones. And yeah, that was a challenge. You could do it, but boy, it took a long time to make one. I've since graduated to the bigger lathes, and it's a lot easier now. But it was still, with these Chinese lathes, with the amount of backlash and the tolerance that's required, it was virtually impossible to do it with any repeatability at all. And it just begins there. So I went to the eye gauges, which gives me, now I have repeatability, you'd think, but you don't. Because this material, when you turn it down to the thickness required to make a beer can ring, it flexes. So the repeatability goes right out the window, because if something is flexing, depending on how far you are from the end, the flex changes and the repeatability goes out the window again. I had to develop a technique to deal with the flex in this piece of metal. I'm not going to tell you what that technique is. I think it's rather unique, something I stumbled onto by accident, but I now can maintain a tolerance of a thousandths and get complete repeatability. But it took me literally years to develop the technique to build these and have them all fit in a beer can correctly. Now, after I initially invented this and started making them, I didn't realize a lot of things. And one was, I was under the impression that because it was going in a beer can, that it had to really be super uber tight and actually stretch the can. So I made them quite a bit oversized. You had a hard time getting them started, didn't have a good lead in, and they really belled the mouth of the can when you put them in. My competition bought these from me and designed their beer can rings after my first ones. So when they were selling beer can rings, you had to take another beer can and bell the mouth of the part just to get them started. And as far as I know, if anybody's still selling them, that's still the story. Well, okay. Since then, I have refined the process 20-fold. And now they don't have anywhere near that size to them, and they slide in probably with, I don't know how much force I can get with one hand, but if I can get my hand on the bottom of the QMH and my fingers on the top, back and forth, I can pull them down by hand. So it's 20, 25 pounds of pressure. You can just lightly tap with a piece of wood. And they go in, and if you're rugged enough, you can actually remove one by hand, but it's not easy, but it can be done. So that's another aspect to the whole thing. Okay, this is the second ring. I've improved things a little bit, changed the lead in just a little bit. And this is a shorter pot, so you can get your palm against the bottom of it. And you can see that, there we go. And it takes, I probably wouldn't be able to get that out with my bare hands. That's really in there. They really grab. And it makes a nice little pot. Nice tapered edge on the inside. And now all I got to make is 19 more. Cool beans. Now, I put a 15 thousandths lead in that drops right into the pot right away. And then it goes out 15 thousandths, and that's the press-in part. Then it goes out 25 thousandths, and that's the shoulder that stops it from going in any further. And that's something I've learned over the years. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the thickness of the actual wall thickness of this ring. The thicker it is, the ruggeder it is, and the thinner, the more flexible it is. You have to maintain a certain thickness so that the hole on the inside will fit the lid. Yet it's still got to be thick enough so that it doesn't bend or anything. So there's a fine line there, and sometimes I tend to get them a little thick and the lid doesn't fit down as smooth as it should. It's not a problem, but it's not ideal. What I've done with some of those that I've discovered after I've made them, they're beautiful rings, but the lid doesn't quite get down. I've gone up to the top and cut a taper on the top edge so the lid doesn't fit well. Does fit well. But on these, I'm going to attempt to make these so that without that taper, they fit the lid perfectly. That means I'm going to have to cut a thinner wall thickness. That means I'm going to have more flex. That means they're going to be harder to make, but in the end they'll be lighter and they'll be a better fit, and there'll be less edge when you run your thumb up for stuff to catch on, although I do cut a taper angle in, but the less edge you have to bring stuff out of the pot, the better, especially when you're pouring stuff out, nothing for it to catch on. And that's about 1% of what's required to make a beer can ring. I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Try to have a really great day and try to have some fun today. You deserve it. Bye-bye.